Look at that. I wasn't sure until Chris Chullo slowly pulled out with his camera. There's only 4 days left until Election Day.
And the Harris campaign is back in damage control. This morning's cover of the New York Post reads, "Say it to their faces."
Yep, it's a message to Mark Cuban, the billionaire, following these controversial remarks that he made on The View yesterday about former President Trump and who he surrounds himself with.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple. They're intimidating to him. He doesn't like to be challenged by them. And, you know, Nikki Haley will call him on his nonsense with reproductive rights and how he sees and treats and talks about women. I mean, he just can't have her around. It wouldn't work.
So literally the campaign went from the day before trash talk to talk about gender, and there was back and forth. Ultimately, Mark Cuban gave the Trump campaign a gift, and it was something they seized upon.
Yeah, I mean, so many women that are helping him behind the scenes, that support him. Mark Cuban realized that. He tried to walk it back. This is part of his post on social media because it was pretty long. He says, number one, I know many strong, intelligent women voting for Trump, including in my extended family. I'm certainly not saying female voters are not smart, strong, and intelligent. Number two, I know he has worked with strong, intelligent women like Elaine Chao, Kellyanne, Ivanka, and many others.
Mm-hmm. Right. How about Susie Wiles? Susie Wiles running the entire campaign.
Susie did put something on social media. Did you read that? I'll try to find it.
Well, you do that. Kellyanne Conway is the first woman to run a successful presidential campaign. When he had a chance to revamp and he made his move, he called on her. And the thing about her, too, when it comes to Nikki Haley, guess who hired Nikki Haley? This was in reference to what he was saying about Nikki Haley and why they're not campaigning together. Well, they campaigned against each other, but they first worked together to the point where if you read Nikki Haley's book, she says, I have to report directly to you. And she ended up having a huge problem with the chief of staff, Kelly, as well as Mattis. They weren't listening to her. So it ended up Donald Trump had to step in and say, you come right to me with any issues, because she was strong, willing to take on the Marine general, four-star general over and over again. I just think out of all the things about President Trump that you could say that you want to challenge him on, I don't think he's vulnerable here.
Well, the huge problem also is that this happened on The View, a show that's full of women, and there was no pushback. Is there only one acceptable voice that can be on The View? Or acceptable person is only the person that is anti-Trump? You don't hear anything from Liz Cheney. We know this is not true. He surrounds himself with people with different points of views, and they duke it out, and that should be totally fine. But leading up to the election, it seems like the only woman voice that matters is the Democrat woman.
I'll find it.
I've got it.
You have it. Okay,
Susie Wiles, who is co-campaign manager for Donald Trump.
Who works 24/7. She doesn't even take a break because she's trying to get him over the finish line.
Well, what's extraordinary is she doesn't really make public comments ever. And she did one on X yesterday. She said, Mr. Cuban, she wrote on X, needs help identifying the strong and intelligent women surrounding President Trump. Well, here we are. So yesterday was all about back and forth with, and there's some right there, about gender.
There's Susie Wiles in the green jacket.
Exactly. Kamala Harris did attack Donald Trump yesterday, claiming he would protect American women, whether the women liked it or not. And then the campaign also pounced on the Trump remark that RFK Jr. would work on women's health in the administration. And the campaign, the Harris campaign, amplified both, saying both of those things would be bad for women.
Yeah, but he was talking about safety. That made it seem like it was about a reproductive thing when it came to abortion, whether women supported, protections such as being as pro-life or not. The comments had nothing to do with that. They know it, but they made it seem like that instead of it was about safety.
Well, Donald Trump, his team is going to be in Georgia. The women, they're calling this the Women's Tour. They're going to start in Atlanta over the weekend. They're doing that tomorrow. It's featuring Laura Trump, Governor Kristi Noem, Governor Sarah Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, Danica Patrick, Sage Steele, Caroline Leavitt. Caroline Leavitt was on Fox and Friends First earlier, and she was talking about this. First, the Democrats said gods and guns. That was Obama. Then they said basket of deplorables. Then they called Republicans smelly Walmart shoppers. Then they called Republicans garbage. And now they're saying the women that are surrounding Trump are dumb and are weak. They're not strong and intelligent.
Well,
so.
Mark Cuban was talking about Nikki Haley. There's a story in Politico this morning that says that Nikki Haley remains on standby. If Trump needs her to show up and do something in the final hours, she's on board. She says there's no bad blood. She wants him to win. He's not picked up the phone yet. Apparently, they haven't spoken since June, but she is ready to help him.
She was with Dave McCormick yesterday, 2 days ago, and one of the things she said is, Dave can't win without Donald Trump, and Donald Trump needs Dave McCormick. He goes, so whatever you think about Donald Trump, his policies are right. There's a lot of noise. His policies are right. Vote for Trump, and then you'll bring Dave across the finish line. He was on with Brett yesterday. There's a couple of things. Mark Cuban, as a surrogate, is really strong for him. Mm-hmm. But I watched the one-on-one interview when they talked for 15 minutes. I guess this airs on his own podcast. He led Harris. He basically said, you think this and you think that, and you... He made more sense than Harris has made the entire time, including her years her few months as a candidate and a few months and her 3.5 years as a vice president. But there's two things he said that have hurt her. Number one, they asked, why is the border wide open? He said, well, because I think Biden and Harris have a big heart. Terrible. I mean, that's terrible.
Just not practical.
Yeah, not practical. And when he comes out here, I have no idea what he was trying to say. I guess he was trying to make sure there was a schism between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, and that's what he did. And this is another time. Now, think about this. The surrogate Joe Biden and the surrogate Mark Cuban have put the Harris campaign on their heels for 2 straight days and given fuel to Donald Trump's, while the comedian, who never even met Donald Trump, as far as we know, they tried to destroy him. So in the same day they go, the comedian reflects what Donald Trump thinks. That lasted a few hours. And they go, wait a second. Now, out comes Joe Biden with his statement of saying the Donald Trump voters are trash. You can't say on one side of your mouth, the comedian speaks for Trump, and the other side of your mouth say the president doesn't speak for the vice president.
Well, so you had the Obama bros who used to run the press shop under former President Barack Obama. They got on Twitter yesterday, and they put out this plea to all the surrogates. They said, please just stay on message. Stop going out there doing your own thing. The problem is the campaign first doesn't have a message. It's all anti-Trump. And then number two, the message has been going on the attack.
Right.
It's been so negative. The joy has been gone away. And so I think Mark Cuban was actually trying to be helpful.
Right,
but he did more damage in the process of doing that.
It seems to me, Lawrence, that there's no coaching of the surrogates.
No.
How about a conference call or a Zoom call? Or you can use FaceTime. There's other different apps you can use where you get together. Guys, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. This is where it's going to be our message today. Instead, Bill Clinton said, just to paraphrase, I want you to vote for Harris. Just because Donald Trump's economy was better doesn't mean you can't vote for Harris. Right. Thanks, Bill.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Layup.
Keep up the good work.
So ultimately, as these new campaign bombs are dropped in the final hours, the question is, does it matter? Because down in Georgia, where Will is, about half the people have already voted, and he's there with a bunch of women as well, who are wanting to talk about what we were just talking about. Will.
Yeah, Steve. By the way, welcome to Joe and Sam's in Watkinsville, Georgia. Huge turnout, as you can see, this morning. They were lined up before I got here. You know, it's interesting. I don't know which one of it was you on the couch that said something about coaching of surrogates. My question isn't so much if it's a lack of discipline or a revealing of true feelings about the people who they think disagree with them. So that's what we were talking about. Lawrence, you said there's no joy. That's interesting you said that because that just came up. I was talking to Carrie and her daughter, Ellery, which, by the way, is my wife's name as well. Super awesome. You were talking about how Trump takes, you guys are wearing these safety vests, how he takes something that is an insult and turns it into something fun.
Absolutely. You know, he takes this, we were on the way up here and we were talking about like one man's trash is another man's treasure, you know, and how he took what could have been, you know, or was trying to be very negative and made it into such a positive thing. And it inspires us and it, you know, we get together and, you know, the more they try to beat him down, the more it kind of raises us up. And
Ellery, was this your idea or was this your mom's?
Well, she came up with wearing our neon vests here, but I wanted to bedazzle them a little bit, make them more personalized. So we put some bling on it.
Carrie was saying, how fun was it when he climbed into the garbage truck? Everything, you know, one campaign is selling itself as joy. One is actually having a joyful time. Christine, I asked Christine, we were talking about Mark Cuban's comments that Trump doesn't like to have strong, independent women, smart women around him?
Well, I don't know about you, but I see a lot of really smart, independent women here. And the thing that bothers me the most about that comment as a 21-year teacher is the fact that now he's also making comments about the girls that I taught, the women in this country that are actually getting involved and wanting to be aware. And he's calling them, garbage or stupid.
Right.
This is not okay.
Yeah, Biden calls the entire electorate that disagrees with him garbage. Cuban suggests that Trump doesn't hire strong women around him. I give him Kayleigh McEnany. I give him Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I give him Amy Coney Barrett, appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States. The other story outside of Georgia is that 3.6 million people have already cast their vote. That's up huge over the 2.3 million in 2020. Let me introduce you to Denise. By the way, so you've lived here almost your entire life, but you were telling me this is the first year you voted.
Yes.
And-
This
and
is
why is that?
actually the very first year I've ever voted. I told my husband I needed to go vote because this year is very important. Things are not good, and I've always thought that Georgia being a red, that there wasn't really any reason for me to vote.
You thought it would just stay Republican, stay red.
Right, so there wouldn't be any reason. But this vote this year is very important.
Right. You saw what happened in 2020 and motivated her to come vote. And so now we have Emmy, by the way. This is your first time to vote too?
Yes, sir.
And is it your first time you're capable of voting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're like, what, 18, 19?
Yes, sir.
And which way are you going to vote, Emmy? If you don't mind sharing with the entire United States of America.
For Donald Trump.
And why is that?
Not only now does it come down to like just his political views that I do stand with, but also protecting our faith and the people around us for like generations to come. I think this vote is very important.
There we go. All right, there you go. So we're going to be here all morning long at Joe and Sam's. I mean, as you can see, a ton of people. So we're going to be talking to all of them throughout the morning. For now, though, back to you guys in New York.
Meanwhile, let's talk politics. And billionaire Mark Cuban, the guy from Shark Tank, a top surrogate for Kamala Harris, is facing major backlash after suggesting the women around former President Trump are weak and not so smart.
All right, senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy joins us live from Las Vegas. Peter.
And if you're keeping score at home, so far this week, a Harris surrogate the campaign doesn't want out there suggested that all Trump supporters are garbage. And then a Harris campaign surrogate that officials do want out there suggested that female Trump supporters are not intelligent. Here's Mark Cuban.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple. They're intimidating to him. He doesn't like to be challenged by them. And, Nikki Haley will call him on his nonsense with reproductive rights and how he sees and treats and talks about women. I mean, he just can't have her around. It wouldn't work.
The Cuban cleanup was quick and it was contrite. On X, he says, 1, I know many strong, intelligent women voting for Trump, including in my extended family. I'm certainly not saying female voters are not smart, strong, and intelligent. 2, I know he has worked with strong, intelligent women like Elaine Chao, Kellyanne, Ivanka, and many others. The Harris campaign boasts a lot about their historic gender gap. We were on a call with campaign officials yesterday, and they were telling us that 55% of the early vote in their calculation has been women. They think that is good for them, but it's tough to see how these Cuban comments help them improve the gender gap, and we just don't know yet how much they might hurt. Back to you.
Indeed. All right, Peter Doocy live out in Las Vegas, actually wearing a necktie the color of that vest. Unrelated, I'm thinking.
It's a very Ivy League necktie. I like it. It looks like it has like an emblem of a school on it.
Yeah.
Did you give him that?
I did, actually. I used to wear that necktie on the Fox and Friends show. Peter gets my hand-me-downs.
So we're just going on some controversial with surrogates. When Sarah gets attacked, you have you have Bill Clinton commenting positively about the economy under Donald Trump, but you should vote for Harris anyway. After saying it's bad that the border failed, you allow that young lady would be alive if they had better security and background checks. And then you have Mark Cuban, who's done a really good job talking about the economy and debating better than Kamala Harris on her behalf, if you ask me. But then making this statement, as you saw, saying the president doesn't like strong women around him, which just doesn't add up. I mean, just to go on and continue with his apology, he said, when I said this during the interview, I didn't get it out the way I want. Well, exactly the way I thought I did. So I apologize to anyone who felt slighted by or upset by my response. But here's the thing. It's no one feeling slighted or upset. It's not close to accurate. I mean, think about the people that have been around him. Hope Hicks has been his chief assistant, the youngest woman ever assistant to the president. Sarah Sanders, the first working mom to be in the White House. Does anyone think Sarah Sanders is a shrinking violet? And you mentioned Dina Powell, the first deputy national security advisor. The president picked all these people to be around him. And then you're seeing this group, the next wave, which could be a second term, he built it around women.
Governor Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard, Danica Patrick, Sage Steele, Caroline Leavitt. The list goes on and on. He's surrounded by, and then we had someone on this morning. It's Brooks. What's her last name? Rollins. She was the former domestic policy director under President Trump, and she said under his administration, more women worked for him than any other president ever.
So we've already heard Mark Cuban apologize. He tried to walk it back as well, which is different than Joe Biden. I mean, after Joe Biden, threw the grenade into the Kamala Harris campaign the other day, he didn't apologize. At least Mark Cuban did that. Here, ladies and gentlemen, some of the ladies who actually have worked around Donald Trump, and this is what they had to say about Mr. Cuban's comments.
The mainstream media covers for Kamala Harris, and they don't hold her to the same standard that they hold Donald Trump. She should take it upon herself. Go to a microphone today, Kamala Harris, and condemn this disgusting insult on more than half of the females in this country who want to support Donald Trump.
What they stand for and what they believe is not where America is today. So when he came out, they're in full panic mode, I think, on the other side. And I think that from calling our side Nazis to garbage to now calling women dumb and unintelligent and weak around Donald Trump almost is the last straw for 100 million women in this country.
If you are a school teacher, if you are a U.S. military member and you're a woman and a Trump supporter, then to Mark Cuban, you are stupid and weak.
It's a disgrace, and Kamala Harris stays silent.
Cuban's words are mean, sad, and misogynistic.
And just a hunch, but I bet on Election Day, strong, smart women will remember.
I'm proud to join the millions of smart, intelligent women who will stand with Donald Trump this Tuesday.
So this election is all about turnout, all right? Who can get people to the polls? And I'm sorry, all of these comments that's been happening in the middle of early voting, leading up to Election Day, are only firing people up on the right to show up for the former president. You cannot you cannot think this is a good thing if you're in the Kamala Harris camp, that all these people are fired up, trash, not intelligent, and all of these people are going to be going to the polls as a result.
Well, you know what, Lawrence? I think that today, if she does make herself available at all, it's going to be the same as 2 days ago. She's going to be cleaning up for Joe Biden. Today, she's going to be asked to define what you think a strong woman is, and do you believe that Donald Trump is afraid to put strong women around him?
Well, at the same time, though, Brian,
she loves talking about Donald Trump.
Exactly
Kamala Harris and her campaign were attacking Donald Trump yesterday because Donald Trump said he would protect American women whether they like it or not. And then also the comment where RFK Jr. would be involved in women's health in the administration. And the Kamala Harris campaign are putting both those things out at the same time, saying, hey, this is all bad for women. 2 days ago, it was all about trash. Yesterday, it was all about gender.
You're right, though. Every single vote counts. If you look at the Marist College poll this morning, Trump is 49% and Harris is at 49%. Real clear politics average, which is the average of all the polls. Trump has 49.4 and she has 46.7.
Steve, your initial point is totally in you're chronicling it accurately from her perspective.
Right.
But it's almost like the Charlottesville statement.
100%.
They took a half of a statement. What he's trying to say is, I'll protect women against illegal immigrants, criminals. And they said, I'm going to protect whether they want me to or not. referring to his staff, said, don't bring this up. He was bringing it up. So if you play the whole thing out, it actually would belong in a
It has
Trump
nothing to
ad.
do with abortion.
Right, if you take out a half the sentence, it belongs in a Harris ad.
Both sides, my point was, both sides have something that they're yelling at each other about. And yesterday it was about gender.
One's accurate and one's inaccurate.
There are a lot of inaccurate ads out there. There's one that continues to place talking about Project 2025. This is what he believes. And it breaks down all these different pieces of Project 2025. He's never even read it. It had nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Right.
I mean, that's a lie.
Well, I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.